So today's devotion is titled Honesty is the Best Policy. And I'm sure that you have heard that multiple times growing up through the years. If you were an adult and you heard that when you were little, it's a pretty popular subject, I guess. But we're on day 149, May the 29th, and today's morning rinse is Jeremiah 13 through 15. So if you have not read that, go ahead and read it. And come on back, let's talk about the featured verses. There are two, which is Jeremiah 15:18 through 19. Why has my pain been perpetual and my wound incurable, refusing to be healed? Will you indeed be to me like a deceptive stream with water that is unreliable? Therefore, thus says the Lord, if you return, then I will restore you. Before me you will stand. And if you extract the precious from the worthless, you will become my spokesman. They for their part may turn to you, but as for you, you must not turn to them. So to expect a prophet like Jeremiah or any of the prophets that are in the Old Testament to be perfect in controlling not only actions, but emotions 100% of the time is unrealistic. Even one of the most obedient men, Jeremiah, got a little upset and claimed God did not help him at a dire time in his life. And we read about that today in our morning rinse. Even Jeremiah, a powerful prophet, got a little off course in his attitude. But God can handle these times of venting. He can handle when we get upset. He can handle when, prophets of the Old Testament got upset. He can handle it. He's not afraid of our anger. He's not afraid of our accusatory words. He's not afraid of our venting. In fact, he would rather us go to him exactly how we feel rather than hiding our true thoughts and hiding our true feelings and burying them in the sand, if you will. It's always, always, always better to go to God authentically. So then what can happen is God can meet us where we are at, and a true healing and a true heart change can begin, because there's something about going to God in our honesty, and that God can actually meet us where we're at. God did this very thing with Jeremiah, and we read about it today. He lovingly reminded Jeremiah to change his heart back to full obedience to God. And oftentimes that can be the case when we're venting or when we're having a struggle. It could be reflection of us, and usually that's pretty much the most of the time that it is. God also reminded Jeremiah to be careful to not let other people influence him, but instead be the influencer. So it's like he addressed his heart and he addressed the people that he hangs around with. And while Jeremiah had a heavy, heavy load to carry as a prophet with a responsibility that not very many people are called to fulfill, it does not mean that he walked in that journey flawlessly. And even men of God, like strong men of God, can get emotionally drained, and they may need to get refocused, and they may need to get reminded of God's purpose. But it first has to begin with being honest and authentic, even if our feelings need to be adjusted. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, is just honesty is truly the best policy when it comes to our relationships, especially with our relationships with God. And, when we are honest with him and are telling him about our struggles, there could be, for the most part, when we're honest with him about our struggles, it's usually something to do with us, usually. I mean, there could be a lack of faith. It could be a lack of perspective. It could be people we're hanging around with that are driving us to get a little, off course. It could be just that we're maybe lacking in praise and worship. It may be that we need better friends. It could be a whole mixture of things. And usually that's when we get some of God's perspective in our lives, when we are venting and when we are honest. And just remembering that the best of the best of the best, the men of God that led the way, can get emotionally drained and may need to get refocused and reminded of God's purpose for their lives. So today's challenge to dig deeper for you and for me is to be honest with God today about something. Take some time and tell him some things that bother you today, and or things that you are growing in today that you're struggling with. Do you feel any anger at all? Do you feel any frustration at all? Do you feel any anxiety at all? Do you feel like you are, upset about anything, even if it's towards him? Be honest today about a struggle or something that you are dealing with. He can handle it. Don't hold back. Tell him. And then after you tell him, and after you vent, and after you have that honest conversation with him, even if it's not necessarily in this massive form of quote unquote venting per se, maybe everything is pretty good right now, and maybe you're having a pretty okay life. You never know what's going to happen today that could give you an opportunity to become frustrated and to share a few of those frustrations with him. I mean, we all go through challenges in our life. We all have challenges on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes our challenges are really, really big, and other times our challenges may be a lot smaller than, what we might deem as this big chaotic mess. But even in the smaller moments, even in those challenging situations, what comes to mind right now is driving down the highway and somebody cuts you off and you get mad. Well, that's kind of a challenging situation. And when we vent, God's hearing it anyway. Maybe there's a different perspective that, we need to have. Like, we never know what's going on in that car. I heard once somebody say that, we aren't in that vehicle when somebody is zooming by and swerving around the lanes. There could be legitimate reasons why that person is driving that way and cut us off. So one of the things that I've learned in that situation is to pray for that person driving, and whatever situation that they're in, that God would intervene on their behalf and to bring them to, peace. So whatever situation that you're in, whether it's big or small or in between, tell him what caused some frustration, and then listen to what he has to say. And that is key. So when we are honest and authentic and are walking through day-to-day challenges in day-to-day life, it's okay. Honesty is truly the best policy. But what is actually also equally important is what happens next. And that is when God responds. And so I challenge you to be honest, but then listen. And when you pull out your journal today and you are talking about or writing this down, I want you to write down, how did God respond to your venting? How did he respond to your anger? How did he respond to your frustrations? How did he respond to your honesty? And then write down what he talked to you about and document it so that you can remember. I hope today inspired you to be honest. I hope that it's inspiring to just continually grow in your faith and in your walk with God, and being honest. And even if it's, you're not feeling kind today, for instance, being honest about that even can help you become kinder as you listen to how God would respond to you. So I hope today inspired you. Always remember that the Bible is full of real people. Even the prophets of the Old Testament were just real people. and they made mistakes too. And we can learn by their examples, just like Jeremiah vented and he was honest with God. We can learn that it is okay to be honest with God. And I hope that today inspired you with that. And if you do not have my journal yet, go ahead and pick that up in the show notes along with the devotional. That way you have both parts. And if you haven't gotten it for your friends or your loved ones, be sure and click on those show notes, and the link is in there. And so I look forward to getting more stories and more stories along the way as you guys are all growing. So until tomorrow, keep rinsing, reflecting, and repeating. God bless you.